Welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. I'm Earl Purdy, and welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. Welcome to Hardcore Course in Miracles. See it everywhere. Everybody's running scared, and everything is turning upside down. Welcome to A Course in Miracles. It's telling us that love is who I am. Hello, mighty companions. We are going to go deep tonight. You and me. I'm Earl Purdy. I want to welcome you to the Course in Miracles. And we have a song by Brother John Christmas to allow everybody to come in so that we can go deep. This is Hardcore Course in Miracles for Course in Miracles students. We're going to be on the function of reason on page 456, the function of reason on 456. In the text in the Course in Miracles, we're on page 456, 456, chapter 21, Section 5 in chapter 21, the function of reason, page 456 in A Course in Miracles in the Foundation for Inner Peace version. This is for hardcore Course in Miracles students, people who know that the Course in Miracles is the path they want to follow, and they want to hear the message. They're not here to analyze it to death. They want to hear what the Course is saying. You and me, we're not that far apart. Yeah, we're beating the same heart. We've been together from the start. We've been together from the start, you and I. Tell me, can you hear it? Are you ready? Are you ready to hear? Tell me, can you feel? Are you ready to feel? Put your arms around it. Know that we are. This is Hardcore Course in Miracles. I'm Earl Purdy here on Facebook Live. We're going to go deep into the function of reason. This class is not for the faint of heart. I want to welcome you to the Course in Miracles. Remember, you don't have to believe it, you don't have to accept it, you don't have to welcome it. Some of it you're going to find hard to believe, some of it's going to be quite startling. And if you will use these ideas, you'll see that these ideas work. But you have to use the ideas. No amount of analyzing it is going to give you the experience of what the Course in Miracles promises. The Course in Miracles actually says analyzing it destroys the meaning of it. I've been doing this close to 40 years, and I want to tell you that's the truth. That's the truth. Listen to John Christmas. You and me, we're not that far apart. We're not that far apart. We're breathing the same heart. We've been together from the start. We've been together from the start. Tell me, can you hear it? Are you willing to listen this evening? Tell me, can you feel it? Put your arms around it and do what? Know that we are one, and we're going to go deep into the Course in Miracles. We're going to be in the function of reason on page 456 in the text, chapter 21. So I'm glad to see you, mighty companions. We are gathering for Hardcore Course in Miracles. Now, Hardcore Course in Miracles isn't about analyzing the Course. We want to hear the Course. We want to hear what the Course is saying. We want to hear what the message is, and that's what it's about. That's what I do. So I'm going to jump right in, and I'm excited. Please take a moment to share the video on your timeline. Right next to where you make comments, there's a little icon called share. And what I want you to do is to share it on your timeline. Share it in a group. So I'm going to go through the paragraph, and then we're going to hear what the paragraph is telling us, and then we're going to go to the next paragraph because we want to hear what the course is saying. Perception selects and makes the world you see. Perception literally picks the world you see out as the mind directs. The laws of size and shape and brightness would hold, perhaps, if other things were equal, but other things are not equal. For what you look for, you are far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. For what you look for, you are far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. The still small voice of God is not drowned out by all the ego's raucous screams and senseless ravings to those who want to hear the voice for God. Perception is a choice. Perception is a choice and not a fact. Perception is a choice and not a fact. But on this choice depends far more than you may realize as yet. For on the voice you choose to hear and on the sights you choose to see depends entirely your whole belief in what you are. Perception is a witness but to the whole belief in what you are, and never to reality. Perception is never a witness to reality. Yet perception can show you the conditions in which awareness of reality is possible. Your perception can show you the conditions in which awareness of reality is possible, or perception can show you the conditions in which awareness of reality could never be possible. So, mighty companions, I want to tell you hello. It's so good to see all of you on here. We are a family. We are a tribe. We are coming together. We want to hear the Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is teaching us the difference between truth and illusion, love and fear, what's real and what's not. So the very first paragraph, and we're on the function of reason on page 456. I'm going to shift over to my Kindle so I can see it really good, and we're going to go through the first paragraph. Okay, the first thing that the Course in Miracles tells us is that perception selects and makes the world you see. So what is it that's making the world you see? Your perception. Your perception is making the world you see. So that means what? It means your perception is literally picking out what you see as your mind directs. So you are seeing what you want to see. That's what it's saying. You are seeing what you want to see. Now, normally the laws of size and shape and brightness would hold, perhaps, if other things were equal, but other things are not equal in perception because you are far more likely to discover what you want to see than what you would prefer to overlook. What you look for, you are far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. If I'm looking for the love in you and the innocence in you, then I'm going to focus on the love in you and the innocence in you, and I'm not going to focus on the guilt. I'm not going to focus on the fear. I'm going to see what I prefer to see. Listen to what the Course in Miracles just told us. What you look for, what you look for, what you look for, what you look for, you are far more likely to discover than what you would prefer to overlook. So the still small voice for God is not drowned out by all the ego's raucous screams and senseless ravings to those who want to hear it. If you want to hear the voice of God, if you want to hear the voice of love, then it's not going to be drowned out by the voice of fear. The ego is the voice of fear. The ego is the voice of fear. The ego is the voice of fear and separation. And the Course in Miracles, it just told us what? If you really want to hear the voice for God, your ego can't stop you. If you really want to hear the voice for love, your fear cannot stop you. If you really want to hear that still small voice for your innocence called the voice for God, if you really want to hear the voice for love, if you really want to hear the truth, your ego cannot drown out that voice for truth if you really want to hear it. What did it say? The still small voice for God is not drowned out by all the ego's raucous screams and senseless cravings. To who? To those who want to hear it. If you really want to hear God's voice, you will hear God's voice no matter what. If you really want to hear the truth, you will hear the truth no matter what. If you really want to hear the voice for God, you're going to hear the voice for God no matter how afraid you are, no matter what your ego's voice is saying to you. Perception is a choice and not a fact. What you see is a choice. So everything that you are seeing is what you are choosing to see. Everything that you look at, everything that you see is what you choose to see. Perception is a choice. Perception is a choice. What you see is a choice. What you're looking at is a choice. What you're choosing to hear is a choice. What you're choosing to believe is a choice. But perception is not a fact. What you see is not necessarily the truth. What you see is not necessarily a fact. But on this choice, what choice? The choice of what you want to see depends far more than you may realize as yet. For on the voice you choose to hear and on the sights you choose to see depends entirely what? Your whole belief in what you are. So what did the Course just tell us? Your whole belief in what you are is dependent on the voice you choose to hear and the sights you choose to see. Your belief about what you are depends on what it is you're choosing to see, what it is you're choosing to hear. What you choose to see and what you choose to hear determines what you believe you are. What you choose to see and what you choose to hear determines your whole belief about what you are. So if you're always focusing on things that don't teach you that you're innocent, that don't teach you that you are spiritual, that does not teach you the truth of who you are as a child of God, then you don't know what you are. Perception is a witness but to this. Perception is a witness but to what? Perception is a witness to what you believe you are. You will always see what you believe you are. You will always look at what you believe you are. If you think you're physical, if you think you're separate, then you're looking at things that seem to be physical and you're looking at things that seem to be separate. That's a very important point. Perception is just a witness to your whole belief in what you are. Do you know that everything you see is a reflection of the belief of what you are? Everything you see teaches you what you are. Your perception is a witness to your belief in what you are. Do you see bodies? Do you see bodies? Do you see bodies all around you? Well, that's because a person that sees bodies all around them, according to this, is a person who thinks that they are a body. Do you see separate things around you? Do you see separate people around you? Then you must believe that you are a separate person. You must believe that you are a separate thing. Perception is just a witness to your belief in what you are. What you see is a reflection of the belief you have about what you are according to the Course. But your perception is never a witness to reality. Perception is never a witness to reality because reality is beyond perception. What's real is beyond perception because perception always changes. Perception always changes. But reality, what is true, is permanent. What is true never changes. What is true is totally consistent. What is true is totally eternal. What is true is total love. That never changes. Real love never changes. So what you see is never a witness to what's real. What you see is a witness to your whole belief about what you are. Think about that. What you're looking at is a witness to the belief of who you are. So perception is a choice, because what you see is up to you, because you're the one that's determining what you choose to see. And what you see depends on what you believe you are. If you think you're innocent, if you think you're a loving person, then that's what you see in your world. You see your world as a kind world, a peaceful world, a loving world, if that's what you believe you are. If you believe you're full of anger, if you believe you're full of conflict, if you believe you're full of sin or guilt, then when you look out at the world, you just see things in the world that reflect anger, guilt, separation, and grievances. Now, if you will notice, what I've learned in my 40 years of studying the Course in Miracles is that it is as complicated as you need it to be, or it is as simple as you need it to be. So basically, this is very simple. And the Course says that reality can show you the conditions, perception can show you the conditions in which awareness of reality is possible, or perception can show you the conditions where awareness of reality could never be possible. So perception can show you the conditions in which the awareness of reality, which is love, is possible. So what is the condition of reality? The condition of reality is peace. So your perception can show you peace, because it's in peace that you become aware of reality. It is in peace you become aware of the truth. It is in peace. See, the condition that you must have and the condition you must see must be a condition of peace. When you are seeing peace, you are aware of the condition that will make you aware of love. If you want to be aware of love, if you want to be aware of the truth, if you want to be aware of what's real, then your perception must show you the conditions in which the awareness of love is possible. And the main condition in which the awareness of love is possible is peace. Or your perception can show you the conditions in which the awareness of love is impossible. One of the conditions in which the awareness of love is impossible is when you are in a condition of conflict, when you're in a condition of fear, when you are in a condition of guilt, when you are in the condition of anger. So when you're in an angry condition, when you're in a guilty condition, then that's a condition where you will not be aware of reality, where you will not be aware of love. So you can see things in such a way that will keep you totally unaware of what's true, or you can see things in such a way that makes you totally aware of the truth. Do you know that you can see things in a way that keeps you totally ignorant and unaware of the truth? Or you can see things in such a way that makes you aware of the truth. So what did this first paragraph tell us? Well, it told us that you select what you want to see, and that you see what you want to see according to what your mind directs you to see. It also told us that you're going to see what you prefer to see much more than you would see what you didn't prefer to see. Then that paragraph told us that if you're really sincere about hearing God's voice, you're going to hear God's voice regardless of what your ego is saying or doing. And it also told us that what you see is a choice, and what you see is not a fact, but everything that you believe you are depends on what you choose to see and what you choose to believe, because what you believe you are is based on what you choose to see and what you choose to focus your attention on. And your perception, which is what you see, is a witness to your belief in who and what you are. If you see love, you must believe you're a loving being. If you see constant fear and conflict, you must believe that you are a fearful, separate being. What we also heard was your perception can show you the conditions in which you can become aware of love, or your perception can show you the conditions in which you'll never be aware of love. See, if you break the Course in Miracles down to love and fear, the Course in Miracles is trying to teach you the difference between what is the truth and what is not the truth. The Course in Miracles is trying to teach you how to tell what's real love from what's not real love, which is fear. Because the premise is, if you know the difference between love and fear, then you are going to choose for love. But you won't choose for true love if you don't know the difference between love and fear. And the Course in Miracles says we go back and forth between the two. And that's why we see a world of up and down, hot and cold, love and fear, peace and conflict. Because sometimes I'm choosing to see things in a loving, conscious way. And sometimes I'm choosing to see things in a crazy, unconscious way. Simple. If I choose to see things in a separate, crazy, guilty way, then that's the world I'm going to see, because that's what I'm believing about myself right now. If I choose to see things in terms of love and peace and happiness, then that's what I must be believing about myself right now. But since perception changes constantly, reality, which is true love, is beyond perception. Because perception always changes depending on what you're telling yourself or what you're believing about yourself from moment to moment. But there is a reality beyond the perception that you see. There is a reality beyond your judgments and interpretations. And the Course is trying to take us to that truth and that reality that's beyond our judgments, that's beyond our interpretations. And that is what the first paragraph in this section is saying. Now, if you'll notice, I did not analyze this. I did not analyze this because if you would be honest with yourself, there's no need to analyze it. I'm going to see what I choose to see, and what I see is going to be dependent on what I believe about myself. If I don't hear the voice of truth, if I don't hear the voice for God, it's because I'm listening to my ego. I'm listening to that raucous, fearful, crazy voice that's in my own mind. But if I really want to listen to the voice for God, I'll hear the voice for God regardless of what my ego is doing. That's what the Course is telling us. You're either going to see things that's going to make you aware of the truth, or you're going to choose to see things that make you unaware of the truth. That's what the first paragraph said. That's what it said. Now, regardless of our reaction to it, which the Course in Miracles says really doesn't matter, it's the truth, so your reaction to it really doesn't matter, but that's what's really happening, okay? Now, if, Alita, you said, if I listen to my ego, I won't hear the voice for God, and that is true. But what this paragraph is saying is that if you really want to hear the voice for God, your ego can't stop you from hearing it. So the only reason why your ego or your fear rules is because you don't want to hear the voice for God more than you want to hear your ego. That's all. I don't want to hear the voice of love as much as I want to hear the voice of anger and conflict and guilt. And so therefore I don't hear God's voice. I don't hear the voice for God. But if I really want to hear the truth, if I really want to focus on the truth, then I'm going to hear the truth regardless of what my ego, fearful mind is saying. And that's good news. So let's listen to the, let's see some of the comments. Kim says, what I choose to see is what I believe about myself. I'm beginning to see more loving things. So Kim, that means you're beginning to have a more loving perception of yourself. Alita said, if I listen to my ego, I won't hear the voice for God. That's right. So all you have to do is want to hear the voice for God more than you want to hear your ego. It is a matter of choice. That's exactly right. Kathy says, love, I see you. I am recognize you. Joanne says, I want to hear the truth. And Marina says, it's a choice. That's simple. So simple. It is. It's a choice. All day long, I have a choice of what I want to focus on and what I don't want to focus on. I listen to the truth all day long. I listen to it in the background. I read it. I study the course every single day. The first thing that I do in the morning is I try to read a chapter, but certainly I try to read a couple of chapters. And this is after 38 years of studying the course. Because I realize I'm either going to focus on the truth, which is the course, or I'm going to focus on the insane, crazy things that the world is, in my ego is telling me. And I don't want to listen to your ego. I don't want to listen to my ego. I don't want to listen to the false beliefs of the world. I don't want to listen to the fearful beliefs, the angry beliefs. That is not what I want to focus on, because what I focus on is determined by what I believe about myself. And I want to believe that I am the Holy Son of God, that I am an innocent mind of love. So therefore, I'm going to focus on that. And I got the book, so I actually have what I can focus on. So that's the way you do it. So let's look at the next paragraph. Reality needs no cooperation from you to be itself, but your awareness of reality needs your help. Your awareness of reality needs your help because it is your choice. Your awareness of reality is your choice. Listen to what the ego says and see what the ego directs you to see, and it is sure that you will see yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid. If you listen to what the ego says and see what the ego directs you to see, and it is sure that you will see yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid. You will experience depression, a sense of worthlessness, and feelings of impermanence and unreality. You will believe that you are helpless prey to forces far beyond your own control and far more powerful than you. And you will think the world you made directs your destiny, for this will be your faith. And never believe because it is your faith, it makes reality. Wow. Now I'm going to drive this paragraph home deeper than any paragraph in a while, because I'm going to show you a little trick after 38 years of working with the course that'll make it easier for you who are hardcore Course in Miracles students. Now, the first thing that it said, and you want to take it sentence by sentence, but not to analyze it, but to hear what it's saying. Let me give you an example. Reality needs no cooperation from you to be itself. You see, for me to be Earl Purdy, I don't need your cooperation. If I'm Earl Purdy, I'm Earl Purdy, and it has nothing to do with your cooperating with that. Reality also needs no cooperation from you. What reality is going to be what reality is, regardless of what you do. So love, which is reality, needs no cooperation from you to be love. I don't need any cooperation from you to be me. You don't need any cooperation from me to be you. Reality needs no cooperation from either one of us to be itself. That's the first point. Second point. Now, reality doesn't need any cooperation from you to be itself, but your awareness of it needs your help. If I'm going to be aware of love, then love needs my help. If I'm going to be aware of love, then love needs my help. If I'm going to be aware of the truth, then the truth needs my help. So reality doesn't need any cooperation from you to be itself, but your awareness of it needs your help. Why? Why does the awareness of the truth need your help? Well, the awareness of the truth needs your help because it is your choice. You see, I'm not going to become aware of reality. I'm not going to become aware of love until I choose to. Love is what love is. Truth is what truth is. But I'm not going to be aware of it until I choose to. You're not going to be aware of the things that the Course in Miracles promises. You're not going to be aware of the miracles and the blessings that the Course in Miracles promises unless you choose to do what? unless you choose to use your awareness to become aware of the truth. Your awareness of it needs your help. Your awareness of the truth needs your help. Your awareness of love needs your help, because your awareness of love is your choice. Now, this next part of the paragraph to me is so cool. Now, a lot of times people ask me, one of the most common questions people have asked me as a teacher is, how can I tell when I'm listening to my ego? How do I know when I'm listening to my ego? How do I know when I'm listening to the wrong voice? How can you tell when you're listening to the wrong voice? How can you tell when you're listening to your ego? The Course in Miracles is about to tell you how you can always know when you're listening to the lying voice inside of your own mind or even outside. If you want to recognize when you're listening to a liar. You want to know when you're listening to the lying voice. You want to know when you're listening to someone who's lying to you or deceiving you. You want to know when you're listening to the voice inside of you that's deceiving you. Well, it says right here, listen to what the ego says, which is the fearful voice and the separate voice, the separation mind. When you listen to what your ego says, whenever you see what your ego directs you to see, whenever you listen to what your wrong-minded voice says, whenever you see what your wrong-minded voice directs you to see, it's sure that you will see yourself as tiny, vulnerable, and afraid. So what did that just tell you? When you're listening to the wrong voice, you're going to see yourself as tiny. You're going to see yourself as vulnerable. And when you're listening to the lying voice inside or outside, you will see yourself as afraid. So whenever I feel afraid, I say, I'm listening to my ego. I feel afraid, I'm listening to my ego. I feel afraid, I'm listening to the voice that's not telling me the truth. I feel tiny, I feel vulnerable, I'm listening to the wrong voice. I'm listening to the voice of the lie. How can you tell? When you're listening to your ego, you feel tiny, you feel vulnerable, you feel afraid, you experience depression. So if you're feeling depression, are you listening to the Holy Spirit? Are you listening to the voice for love if you feel depressed? No. Whenever you're depressed, you're listening to the wrong voice. Whenever you feel depressed, you are lying to yourself. Whenever you feel depressed, you are lying to yourself. Whenever you feel a sense of worthlessness, you are listening to the wrong voice. You are listening to your ego. Whenever you feel that you are impermanent, whenever you feel that you are impermanent, then you're listening to the wrong voice. You're listening to the ego. Whenever you feel like everything is unreal, when you feel unreality, you're listening to your ego. Did you hear me, mighty companion? Do you see the simplicity of the Course in Miracles? What did it tell you? If you listen to what your ego says, if you pay attention to your ego, if you pay attention to the voice of the ego inside your own mind, you're going to see yourself as tiny, you're going to see yourself as vulnerable, you're going to see yourself as afraid. When you're listening to your ego, you're going to experience depression, you're going to experience a sense of worthlessness, you're going to have feelings of impermanence, and you're going to have feelings of unreality. When you're listening to the wrong voice, when you're listening to the wrong voice, you're going to see yourself as helpless. You're going to feel helpless. So does that mean whatever situation in your life that you feel helpless in right now, if there is a situation that you feel helpless, what does that mean? It means you're listening to your ego. It means you're not listening to God's voice. How can you tell when you are not listening to the truth? How can you tell when you are not listening to God's voice? You will believe that you are helpless. You will believe that you're prey to forces far beyond your own control. When you're not listening to God, you will feel like you're surrounded by forces that are much more powerful than you. How can you tell when you are not listening to the truth? When you are not listening to God? You're going to think the world is directing your destiny. You're going to think that the world you made is actually directing what's going to happen to you. How can you tell when you're not listening to God? How can you tell when you're not listening to the truth? You will believe. It says, for this will be your faith. So what will be your faith? What is it that you will believe in when you're not listening to God? When you're not listening to the truth, you'll think that the world you made will direct your destiny. When you're not listening to the truth, you believe that you're helpless prey to forces that are far beyond your own control and forces that are far more powerful than you. When you're not listening to God, you will have feelings of impermanence. You will have feelings of unreality. You will feel like you are worthless, and you will feel depressed when you are not listening to God, when you're not listening to truth. And when you're not listening to God, when you're not listening to the truth, you would think you're tiny, you would think you are vulnerable, and you would think you are afraid. So does that clear up for you how to be able to tell when you're listening to BS and when you're actually listening to what God is telling you? So if you're a person that feels tiny, vulnerable, afraid, depressed, worthless, impermanent, unreal, prey to forces far beyond your own control, if you think you're a prey to forces that are far more powerful than you, if you think the world is directing what happens to you, and you believe that, then that's your faith. And don't believe that just because you have faith in all of that, that it makes reality. Which is a really interesting statement. Never believe because it is your faith, it makes reality. One of the things that I used to always hear is what you have faith in is what's going to become your reality. No, what you have faith in is going to become your perception. What you have faith in is what you're going to see. What you have faith in is what you're going to experience. But what you have faith in does not make reality. Remember, it said reality doesn't need your cooperation to be itself. Reality doesn't need you to make it in order for it to be real. Love doesn't need you to make love for love to be real. So don't believe that just because you believe something that's going to make it real. It's only going to make it what appears to be real to you. That's right, Joanne. This is an awesome paragraph because it answers one of the most common questions that Course in Miracles students ask. How can I tell when I'm listening to my ego? How can I tell when I'm listening to the incorrect voice? Now you know. If you don't remember anything else from the Course in Miracles but that, this evening, you will have moved yourself light years along in your spiritual awakening. So let me look at some of the comments. Diana says, when I'm not listening to God, I think I'm tiny, guiltless, and afraid. That's it. That's true. Bridget says, yes, absolutely. I hear you, Earl. Well, I'm glad you hear me, Bridget. Marina says, I'm choosing what to have faith in. That is a very important point to remember. I'm the one that's choosing what I'm going to believe. I don't care what I learned as a child. No matter what I learned as a child, no matter what I learned as I was growing up, right here, right now, today, in this now moment, I can choose what I'm going to see. I can choose what I'm going to hear. I can choose what I'm going to pay attention to. Kim says, thanks for that clarification. You are very welcome, because that's what I'm here for clarification, not analyzation. Dana says, yes, reality doesn't need me to agree. That's a beautiful statement. Whatever is true whether I believe it or not, and I'm glad. I'm glad God is love regardless of what I believe or what I believe about myself. Thank you, God. Bill says, tell it, Earl. Hey, that's what I'm here for, Bill. I'm just here to be a messenger. That's all I am. I didn't write the book, so I don't have to defend the book. I never defend the Course in Miracles. Most people wouldn't even know I was a Course in Miracles teacher, especially in social situations, because I know that in social situations, unless I'm specifically asked, my purpose in any social situation is just to be there to remember the truth about everybody in that social situation, which is that they are the holy child of God. That's it. I'm fulfilling my function by what I think when I'm around people, not necessarily by what I say. And our innocent brother Trump, of course Trump is also innocent also. He has an ego, you have an ego, I have an ego. We all have self-concepts, and we all have fear. or we wouldn't be here. So our job is to recognize that Trump is also his real self, not his ego, and not my ego. His real self is love. His real self is God. And our job is to remember that, even if we don't think we see it. So, let's go a little bit further. Is this making sense to everybody? Are you, those mighty companions that's with me right now? Am I doing a good job? Am I being a clear messenger? Is it coming through okay? Is it coming through okay? Let me know. Let me know. All right. And if I do say something that you don't agree or that you don't understand right now, forget it. Don't worry about it. Let it go. The Course in Miracles says, you know, when you focus on what you don't understand, it just emphasizes your feeling of, thank y'all for sharing and letting me know that you're right here with me. Thank you. I love you. I love y'all so much. You don't have any idea what a blessing it is to be with my mighty companions. Wow. So, Joan, it's good to see you. Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph. Now, it's going to get better. It's going to get even better. There is another vision and another voice. There is another vision and another voice in which your freedom lies, awaiting but your choice. And if you place your faith in them, and if you place your faith in the other voice, you will perceive another self in you. This other self sees miracles as natural. This other self sees miracles as natural. Miracles are as simple and as natural to your other self as breathing to the body. The miracles of the other self are the obvious response to calls for help, the only one it makes. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego because the ego does not understand. The ego does not understand how separate minds can influence each other. The ego does not understand how separate minds can influence each other, nor could separate minds do so. But minds cannot be separate. Minds cannot be separate. This other self is perfectly aware of this, that minds cannot be separate. And thus the other self recognizes that miracles do not affect another's mind, but only its own. Miracles always change your mind. There is no other mind. Okay, let's go back through it, because we know that the purpose of us doing this together, you and I, is to remember it and hear it. So let's take it line by line, shall we? There's another vision and another voice. Okay, in other words, the ego voice, right? The ego voice makes you see yourself as tainted, vulnerable, afraid, depressed, worthless, impermanent, and unreal. The wrong voice, the ego voice, makes you believe that you're a helpless prey to forces far beyond your own control and far more powerful than you. The ego voice will make you think the world you made directs your destiny, and that will be your faith, but don't believe that just because you got faith in it, that makes it real. So what does the Course do in this paragraph? Well, in this paragraph, it says, okay, I just told you how your ego self operates. Now I'm going to tell you how your real self operates, your love self. There's another vision and another voice in which your freedom lies, waiting but your choice. So there's another way you could see things. There's another voice that will free you, but you have to choose it. There's another voice available to you, in you, but you have to choose this other voice. There is another way of seeing things that's in you, but you have to choose it. What did it say? There's another vision and another voice in which your freedom lies, awaiting but your choice. I'm glad that you all are following along with me in the book. Those of you who are following along with me in the book, some of you all are not able to do that for various reasons. But when you can follow along with me in the book, please do, because I want to show you that reading this book is not as challenging as the ego tries to make you think it is, unless you think it's up to you to figure it out. The Course in Miracles is very difficult for people who study the Course in Miracles who are trying to fit it into their thought system. If you're trying to fit this into what you already believe, it's going to be hell. I'm going to tell you right now, because it's totally different from what we've been taught by the world. So to learn the Course in Miracles, you have to temporarily get rid of what you think you believe is true, not try to fit the Course into it. The Course isn't made to be fit into isn't made to be fit into your frame of reference. You are supposed to open yourself up to the frame of reference that it's using. So there's another vision in you, and there's another voice in you that will give you freedom, but you have to choose it. Then the next sentence says, if you place your faith in them, who is them? What is them? This other vision, this other voice, you will perceive another self in you. There is another you. There is a sane you. There is a sane you. There is a totally loving you. There is a totally free you. There's a totally innocent you. There is a totally divine you. There is a totally abundant you. And if you would start to have faith in that you will see there is another self in you. And so then the Course in Miracles does what? The Course in Miracles says, I'm going to tell you about the qualities and characteristics of your real self, which the Course in Miracles calls your Christ self. Your Christ self is your true self. The Course in Miracles defines the Christ as the one self that God created that we all share. Okay, so as you notice, I'm working with the book. I'm going line by line, and I'm showing you that it is just trying to give us a message. First, it told us what? There's a false self. If you believe in your false self and you listen to your false self, you're going to see yourself as tainted, vulnerable, afraid, depressed, worthless, impermanent, unreal. You're going to see yourself as a victim. You're going to think everybody and everything's more powerful than you. But there's a real self in you. There's a true self in you. And this true self will give you freedom. But you have to choose your true self. It says if you place your faith in them, you will perceive another self in you. And do you know what's really cool about this other self? Is that this other self in you sees miracles as natural. There's a part of you that sees expressions of love as natural. There's a part of you that sees healing as natural. There's a part of you, there's another you that sees miracles as natural. As a matter of fact, to your real self, to your other self, miracles are as simple and as natural to it as breathing. It's like right now you breathing. There's a part of me that being loving is as natural as breathing. There's another part of me that seeing correctly, forgiving is as natural as breathing is to the body. As a matter of fact, miracles, which are expressions of love, are the obvious response to the calls for help. So there's a part there, the Course in Miracles says there is a you that you may not be aware of that answers any calls for help with love and with truth. And it's the only response it makes. So there is another you in you that only responds with love. There's another you in you that only forgives everything. Already there. There's another you in you that already forgives everything. There's another you in you that can perform miracles as easily as it breathes. There's another you in you. There's another you that will free you. There's another you that can express miracles, and it's natural to it. Now, are you aware that miracles seem unnatural to the ego? Unconditional love seems unnatural to a frightened, fearful, guilty mind. That's the ego. The frightened, fearful, guilty mind. The part of the mind that is frightened, fearful, and guilty is called the ego. To that part of your mind, miracles seem unnatural. Expressions of love seem unnatural. Unlimited expressions of love seem unnatural. To who? To the part of your mind that thinks it is separate. To the part of the mind that thinks it's guilty. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego because it does not understand how separate minds can influence each other. The ego is the part of your mind that believes it's separate, so it can't understand how my separate mind could be influencing your separate mind. And separate minds cannot influence each other. If my mind was truly disconnected from your mind, then of course my mind could not influence your mind. And if your mind was completely disconnected from my mind, then it's no way that your mind could influence my mind. But minds cannot be separate. Minds cannot be separate. Bodies can be separate. Egos can be separate. But the mind cannot be separate. I can have a concept of myself that I'm separate. You can have a concept of yourself that you're separate. But the mind that is having those concepts, that one mind, is not separate. So minds can't separate. Minds are joined. Minds, M-I-N-D-S, minds are joined. Now, your real self is perfectly aware of that. Your loving self is perfectly aware that minds can't separate and that minds are connected and that the mind is joined. Your ego can't relate to that. Miracles seem unnatural to the ego. Love actually seems unnatural to the fearful mind. So, your other self is perfectly aware that minds are joined, and so your other self also recognizes that miracles, which are expressions of love and expressions of truth, do not affect somebody else's mind, but only its own mind. They always change your mind. See, the only mind that miracles change is your mind, because there is no other mind. There is no other mind. According to the Course in Miracles, there's just one mind. We are all one-minded. We are all part of one mind. We are part of one mind. We are part of one mind. Mind does not separate. Mind cannot be separated. But if you're in your ego, now what does that mean? If you believe that you are tainted, vulnerable, afraid, depressed, worthless, impermanent, and unreal, if you believe that you are helpless prey to forces far beyond your own control, if you believe that you are prey to forces more powerful than you, then you are ruled by your ego. Your ego, the part of you that does not know the truth, is the part of you that you are identifying with. And if you are identifying with the part of you that thinks that you are weak and separate, then miracles, which are expressions of true love, will not seem natural to you, because you won't understand how separate minds can influence each other. But the Course in Miracles says separate minds cannot influence each other. So it tells us that the miracle isn't really affecting someone else's mind. Correct perceptions and the truth are only affecting your mind. But since your mind is joined with my mind and we only have one mind, that's why the love that you accept in your mind can have an effect on what appears to be my mind, because the truth is we are just part of one mind. There is no other mind. So miracles, expressions of love, the truth that we've heard tonight always changes your mind. But when your mind is truly changed, everybody's mind will be truly changed, because there's only one mind. If I have a pot full of water, it doesn't matter what part of the pot that I pour the water in, it affects all the water in the pan. So each and every one of us focusing in on this truth together and realizing that we have another part of us that's divine, that can perform miracles as easy as it breathes, is also bringing that awareness to everyone else. Okay, take a breath right now. We're going to digest what we've heard, and we're going to let it in, and we're going to integrate it. And then I'm going to recap it. Okay, I'm going to recap it. I want to thank you for listening and allowing yourself to be a part of this presentation. I'm Earl Purdy. If you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, as I am a full-time teacher, I would truly appreciate that. Just go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, Purdy.com. You can also make a financial expression of appreciation through Venmo, if you have that, by using my email address, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. That's my email, earlpurdy@earlpurdy.com. I would truly appreciate that so much. I also am available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. Very powerful sessions that take into consideration my 40 years of sharing as a teacher and a coach and a lecturer, and also it will also take advantage of my 40 years of doing soul astrology and numerology. It's time to wake up, and I can help you do that. The Holy Spirit, through me, can help you do that. On Sundays at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I do the Course in Miracles on Facebook Live on the Earl Purdy page. That's 1 o'clock Sundays Mountain Time in front of a live audience. If you don't have Facebook, you can still watch my live presentations. Just go to www.facebook.com/Earl Purdy Live. And you can watch my broadcast whether you have a Facebook account or not. And you can turn other people onto it who may not have a Facebook account. Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Mountain Time, The Way of Mastery. I teach The Way of Mastery, another very profound channel curriculum. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out. It's on the Earl Purdy page on Facebook. So, you all, I love you so much. You all are not analyzers. You really allow yourself to hear what's being said and to take it in and to integrate it and to remember it. And let me tell you, that is how you master A Course in Miracles. That's how you make it happen. Go to my website and sign up for my contact list so I can let you know about classes and workshops that I'm doing online. Here we go. So what did it tell us? What did we hear? What did we hear? Your perception selects and makes the world you see. So the world you're looking at is coming from what you are choosing to see. And everything you choose to see, you are picking it out as your mind directs. Do you know that you are far more likely to discover what you would prefer more than what you would prefer to overlook? Then it also told us, if you really want to hear God's voice, then your ego can't stop you from hearing God's voice. No matter what the guilty, angry, fearful thoughts in your mind say, if you really want to hear the voice of love, if you really want to hear the voice of truth, your ego can't stop you if you really want to side with the truth. Instead of siding with your ego, you will hear the voice of God. What you see, perception is a choice. Perception is a choice and not a fact. What you see is a choice. It's not necessarily a fact, but your perception, you will see what you want to see. Your whole belief in who you are, your whole belief in what you are, It depends on the voice that you are choosing to listen to, and it depends on the sights you are choosing to see. And I choose to see love. I choose to see the innocence and power in you. I choose to see the light in you. I choose to see the love in you. I choose to see the truth in you. So that must be what I think I am. I am going to choose to see in you what I believe is in me. So your perception is always a witness to what you believe you are. But your perception is never a witness to reality, because perception changes and reality doesn't ever change. Reality has always been love. Reality is love right now, and reality will always be an ever increasing, ever expanding love. Now, what you see can show you the conditions in which you will never be aware of love. Or what you see can show you the conditions in which you will be aware of love. And the condition that will keep you from being aware of love is when you're in the condition of conflict, anger, grievances, guilt, and fear. If you're seeing yourself through the ego and you're feeling small and tiny and vulnerable and depressed right now, you are experiencing what? You are experiencing the condition in which you will never be aware of reality. What else did the Course in Miracles tell us that we covered this evening? It told us that reality needs no cooperation from you to be itself. Love doesn't need your cooperation to be itself. Truth doesn't need your cooperation to be itself. God does not require your cooperation to be God. So love doesn't require your cooperation to be love. But your awareness of it needs your help because it's your choice. So how can you tell when you're listening to your ego? How can you tell when you're listening to the wrong voice? You will see yourself as real little and real vulnerable and real afraid. I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. If you're listening to the wrong voice, you will experience what else? If you're listening to the wrong voice, you will feel depressed. Whenever you're listening to the lying voice, you will feel worthless. And whenever you're listening to the lying voice, you will feel like you are temporary and you're going to die one day, or you will feel unreal. If you listen to the wrong voice, how can you tell when you're listening to the ego? How can you tell when you're listening to the ego? When you're listening to the ego, you will believe that you are a victim. You will believe that you are helpless. You will believe that you are prey to forces that seem to be far beyond your own control and far more powerful than you. And you will think the world you made directs your destiny. The world doesn't determine how you feel. No one outside of yourself ultimately determines how you feel. And if you believe what your ego tells you, that's going to be your faith, that you're little, tiny, and vulnerable. But don't believe that because you have faith in that it makes it your reality. Now, what's the good news? What's the other voice? What's the other voice? Listen to me right now. There is another self in you. There is another self in you. There is another self in you. There is another self in you that will give you the freedom that you have always wanted. But you have to choose this new self. You have to choose your other self. You have to choose your other self. You have to have faith in your loving self. And then you're going to see another self in you. There's another self in you. This other self sees miracles as natural. This other self sees miracles as natural. Your other self sees love as natural. Your other self sees love as natural. To your real self, your other self, your Christ self, miracles are as simple and as natural to your loving self as breathing to the body. Miracles are natural to your real self as breathing is to your body. Your real self, expressions of forgiveness and love and healing are as natural to your other self as breathing to the body. Your real self, it only responds to calls for help It only responds to the things that happened in your life and with the people around you. Your real self only has one response it makes. Your real self only has one response it makes. And miracles seem unnatural to your tiny self, your ego self, because your ego self can't even imagine how separate minds can really influence each other, but separate minds cannot influence each other. But your real self is perfectly aware that separate minds don't influence each other. Your real self recognizes that these thoughts of love, these thoughts of truth, these miracles that we are aware of, that's so natural to our other self, that it's just affecting your own mind. But there is nothing but your mind. There is but one mind, and we share that one mind. So whatever truth that we have accepted during this presentation, it has influenced the one mind that we all share. Because there's another self in you. Miracles are natural to your real self. Miracles are natural to your real self. So tell yourself, I am entitled to miracles. Let's say it. I am entitled to miracles. I am entitled to miracles. You are entitled to miracles. You are entitled to miracles. You are entitled to miracles. We are entitled to miracles. We are entitled to miracles. Miracles are natural. Miracles are natural. Miracles are natural. Miracles are natural. When miracles do not occur, something has gone wrong. When miracles do not occur, something has gone wrong. Miracles are natural. I say miracles are natural. So tell yourself, we are entitled to miracles. Mighty companions, we are entitled to miracles. Let's say it. We are entitled to miracles. We are entitled to miracles. Say it. We are entitled to miracles. We are entitled to miracles. Say it for yourself. I am entitled to miracles. I am entitled to miracles. As usual, our one mind joined, and it was my pleasure and an honor and a privilege to be a conduit for the Holy Spirit, for you, my mighty companion. So until the next time, don't forget to listen to this over and over again. One time alone won't do. And please share it. Share it on your timeline and in your groups. And mighty companions, I love you. And may the what? And may the course be with you. Mwah.